With the recent news of Gearbox purchasing the rights to the Risk of Rain series, I decided to go back and... What? You didn't hear about that? Well, now you did. And it's actually why I'm making this video. But first, let's talk about Borderlands. I finally sat down and played it with the intent of seeing how Gearbox actually develops their games, as I previously had only played titles that they published. And what better choice than the most recent installment of their flagship franchise, Borderlands 3. Now, hold on there, I know exactly what you're thinking. Why did you start with Borderlands 3 when the second one is the superior game? Because this wasn't my first interaction with Borderlands ever, just the first time I decided to actually commit to finishing one. I played about an hour of Borderlands 2 when 1, 2, and the pre-sequel were all bundled for like $5 back in 2017 or something. And let's just say that the gunplay was unimpressive, to say the least. Shooting guns in Borderlands 2 felt like shooting airsoft guns in real life. Flaccid. If you know what the real deal feels like, then it's really no comparison at all. Wow, you only played an hour, one singular hour? You can't possibly experience what you need in order to come to any reasonable conclusion on the game as a whole within just 60 minutes of gameplay. Except I can. Regardless of the fact that I've been playing shooters since I was literally 3 years old, as a general rule, if you aren't immediately having fun with a game's gameplay, the moment-to-moment 30-second loop, then you can absolutely come to the conclusion that sitting through the rest of what the game has to offer just isn't worth it. The best example of this that I know of is Witcher 3. Absolutely fantastic story, characters, world building, and really just overall experience. But its moment-to-moment gameplay, pretty flaccid. Not terrible, but definitely not amazing either. So if someone says to me, yeah, I tried getting into The Witcher 3 because I heard so much good about it, but I really couldn't bring myself to enjoy the combat and I was too early in the story to be attached to anyone or anything that was going on, that's a perfectly valid conclusion. But say that that person had persevered through the initial hump and instead of only playing the first hour, they instead decided, all right, I'm gonna sit here and play until dinner time no matter what. All of a sudden, bam, they're hooked. Those extra few hours right at the start of their experience made them grow more attached to the characters and overall experience that the game had to offer. I'm talking about myself, by the way. But do you know what The Witcher 3 is? A narrative-driven RPG. The entire point of its existence is to tell a story. What about Borderlands? But enough about all of that. Borderlands 3 is actually a pretty good game. Gunplay, solid. Character builds and customization, solid. Enemy variety and difficulty, solid. Environments and art direction, amazing. Characters and yeah. Not good. Borderlands is known for its over-the-top, always witty, and always sarcastic characters. I already knew that going in. And again, not having experienced the first or second game, I didn't have anything to go off for the third in terms of just how far the writers took it. Turns out, it's pretty dang far. I'm not just bashing on BL3's writing for the sake of bashing it or because it's the easy thing to do. No, it really just is something else. Not necessarily the dialogue itself, but the frequency of it. Oh my gosh. It is absolutely absurd how much the characters talk in this game. You won't even believe just how much talking there is in this game until you play it yourself. I am not kidding when I say this. In my 17-hour campaign playthrough, I maybe had 10 minutes of killing things in silence. Maybe. Except for the final zone where you start killing robots who have no voice lines and the story guy who is with you doesn't really have much to say either. That was the best 20 minutes of my playthrough right there. The rest of it though.
To it. Just run up to one and kindly tell that
Yeah, people do not shut up in this game, and it's absolutely obnoxious. Again, the writing and the characters themselves aren't awful. They're not great either. It's just really the frequency of the dialogue. Go to the ship's bridge, stand and listen to 3 or 4 characters talk in a circle for a minute, ship screen comes on, bad guy monologues for another minute, circle goes on for another minute about the monologue, someone tells you to go somewhere, you start to go there, but then immediately have someone talking in your ear until you reach the exact location that you need to be, but then the character that you meet at that location talks to you for another minute before sending have to do exactly the objective, but then they talk in your ear for literally the entire time it takes you to travel to that objective. Then once you reach the objective, the bad guys start talking in your ear as you go through the entire mission. You finally kill them all, and then you go back to the ship and get your next mission. Repeat all of that for each and every mission. That's Borderlands 3 for you. If there's only one piece of criticism that I can provide to the Gearbox team, it's that showing is better than telling. If your characters have to constantly tell me that X thing is so badass and cool and amazing or so dangerous and important and awesome, then that thing is definitely not all of that. Also, less is more. Like, how can you expect me to take the major events in your story seriously when the characters are constantly cracking jokes and being sarcastic?
I'll pre-order your tombstone just in case.
Thanks for taking care of that dump truck situation, sweet thing.
Sweet thing!
Passwords, open the bloody door before I shove a coffee grinder up your ass.
So the characters in the story are overall an L. The rest of the game, however, is solid. Maybe not a dub, but solid. I'm making this video after finishing the campaign, but before diving into any of BL3's endgame stuff, I may make a follow-up video once I've experienced my fill of the endgame content. Twitch.tv/fully gaming if you want to see me grinding it out. But from level 1 to 37, I had a great time shooting and looting. Gunplay is vastly improved over Borderlands 2 and even Tiny Tina's. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that at the start of the video. I actually played like 8 hours of Tiny Tina's Wonderlands as well. I'm a sucker for any game where you're killing monsters, getting loot, and leveling up and killing more monsters. But the gameplay loop in Tiny Tina's is just far too focused on abilities and melee rather than the actual guns in a shooter game, by the way. And really, Tiny Tina's was a significant downgrade compared to Borderlands 3. So let's go back to the beginning of this video, how this all relates to Risk of Rain. I stand by everything that I said in my video covering the purchase, link in the description if you missed it. But now, after having played a Gearbox title, I'm more optimistic than not. I didn't think Gearbox would absolutely butcher Risk of Rain and that it was absolutely doomed as a franchise. Rather, I just wasn't optimistic in the slightest. Skeptical is probably the best word. But now, I'm pretty optimistic. The varied environments, vast vistas with immense scale, fit perfectly into the feel that Risk of Rain is already known for, so no worries at all in that department. The enemies were unique enough in their design, albeit not absolutely crazy, but hey, they're fun to shoot at, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day. Again, that's something Risk of Rain also accomplishes. The guns had effects that made me go, ooh, let's see what that does, to almost every single legendary that dropped. Not the most build-enabling gangbuster wild stuff around, but cool ideas to keep you excited every time those purple and orange beams show up. That's all comparable to the plethora of items in Risk of Rain, but not quite at the same level. And the gunplay itself was not nearly as bad as I had presumed going into it. Remember, Tiny Tina's and Borderlands 2 were my reference points. But it also wasn't at the tippity top level, a place that I put Destiny in, for example. Sure, you'll get a hit marker and the enemy staggers a little bit upon landing a shot, but the overall feeling of the shooting wasn't amazing. I attribute most of that to the sound design of the weapons. Nothing really stood out from the pack to me, and everything just sounded a little too basic. Also, the sound of you actually hitting the shots is pretty flaccid as well. In a game like Destiny, or heck, even indie titles like Gunfire Reborn or Ultra Kill, you know when you're shooting stuff. Like, there is zero hesitation when the bullets are hitting their mark. In Borderlands 3, sometimes the only way I knew I was killing things is because I could visibly see the damage numbers popping up. And this problem is exacerbated when someone is talking to you and the gunshots are dipped in volume by like 60%, which is all the freaking time. Wait, there we go. What? It all takes away from the feeling of the gunplay and degrades an otherwise great 30-second loop down to nothing particularly special. That is the main thing that I'm skeptical for with Gearbox's handling of Risk of Rain, the gameplay loop. Well, that and of course the... Please, Gearbox, I'm begging you, less is more. But I think I've said enough here. Again, once I'm done with Borderlands 3's endgame, I may come back and make a follow-up video if my opinion on this changes significantly. But for the time being, here's my final take. If Gearbox puts a good amount of their A-team on whatever their plan is for Risk of Rain, we've got a decent chance at something worthy of carrying the mantle. Obviously, this also depends on what their plan actually entails. Like, if they're going to use the Risk of Rain IP to somehow burst into the RTS market, yeah, that's probably isn't going to end well. But if it's in the same vein as what they already know, shooters, I think we'll be just fine. Wait, no, wait, no, stop, please, no, no.
You promised.
You will.
What is that?
When you're ready.
What was that? Did you see that?
Ouch,
Did you see the?
Look what they left for us.
What the heck was that? Is this a boss fight? I want to kill these guys.
Now.
All right, I'm turning my. Is anyone going to complain that I turned the music back on? I just skipped this. Turn the music back on. Talk to Maya. I missed something important? Who? Maya's dead? Oh, again, look at my face. I don't care, dude. Oh my gosh, I don't care.